Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and this is the My Sober Addiction podcast. And we are happy, healthy, wealthy, and free. Well, hello, loved ones. I know I'm a little late getting this one out this week. Well, if you live on the interior of the United States, particularly the eastern half of the interior, then you are fully aware that we have a lot of snow and ice and all of that. So I've been having to deal with all that and getting cars dug out of driveways and just things like that. It's kind of funny though. We had 4 or 5 inches of snow, and then we had like maybe a half an inch or so of ice, maybe a little more. And then on top of that, another, 4, 5, 6 inches of snow. So I've never seen this before. But whenever I was getting my car, because it's parked outside, it was weird because there was like a layer of snow and then a layer of ice and then a layer of snow, which actually was kind of nice because in a lot of cases like that, usually it's ice first, then snow on top of it. And then you have to literally chip away at the ice around your door or whatever to try to get into the car. Well, that wasn't the case because I was able to dig the snow out from under the ice and then kind of lift the ice up and just kind of shove it off of the car in one big, huge chunk. It was pretty cool, really. So it was. But anyway, loved ones, I had an outline for this week's episode. However, with this snow going on and all of this weather happening, it got me to thinking, and it was like, wow. Well, along the same lines of the same theme as last episode, where I was talking about the holidays and how we always had to fake it with the family. If you were like me and you had family out of town, they always want you to come in town to spend the holidays with them and everything. And we couldn't get away from the hustle long enough. We couldn't get away from the grind of always trying to make sure we've got dope, right? Because we couldn't leave town for 2 or 3 days. You crazy? We couldn't do that kind of thing because we had to, it was usually a daily hustle. It was a daily grind to get money or whatever, hustle and get dope so that we wouldn't be sick. And we couldn't leave for a few days. Now, yes, early on in my addiction, I was a very highly functioning addict, actually. I was still working. I was still making pretty good money. So I could buy a couple days worth of dope to keep me well while I was gone. But that always, that never lasts, right? So towards the end, when it becomes a daily, almost hourly, it turns into an hourly type of thing. In those cases, during the holidays, we can't take time out to go spend time with family. We can't take time out for any of that. Not to mention, there's a pretty good chance our dealer was not available during Christmas and Thanksgiving and stuff like that. So the theme of my last episode, if you didn't hear it, was, isn't it nice that we don't live that way anymore? Isn't it nice that we don't have to worry about that? And the weather being the way it is right now really got me thinking, wow, it's the same thing, really. Because there were times when I was in active addiction, when the weather would be like this, we'd have a foot of snow or whatever. Well, guess what? Addiction does not care if there's a foot of snow on the ground. Addiction does not care about any of that. You have to feed that monster, and that's it. It doesn't matter. Right? So I was having some coffee and I was looking out the window and I was watching the snow and how the roads were completely impassable. My car was completely buried in the snow. There was no way that was coming out of the driveway at that point. We did get it out. The lovely Kitty and I went out and dug our driveway all the way out. I'm really sore. Yeah. And then there's this really nice old lady across the street who we with the neighbors chipped in and got her all her stuff shoveled for her. But I was just watching, and it really occurred to me. There's people out there right now who are still strung out, and it doesn't matter that we have a foot of snow on the ground or whatever it is. I don't even know what the totals ended up being. But and my heart breaks for them. It does, because I know that it's like, you got to get out and hustle anyway. Now, I guess with all this snow, that at least gives them a way to go and make some money. They can go shovel some driveways and some walks and stuff and hustle up some cash. But then they probably don't have the proper attire for that. I mean, like, I've got snow pants and boots and all that stuff now. But when I was on dope, no, I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. Probably I had a hoodie and a pair of jeans, right? I can't imagine trying to be out trying to shovel snow in that. But then there's still, like in my case, we had to go about an hour. Well, we could buy drugs around where I lived, but that was paying a very high price for that. So we had to go very far. Well, it wasn't that far. I mean, it was like 45 minutes to an hour's drive away, but that was in good road conditions. So it's like, I'm looking at the roads and I'm like, what if? Well, and there's no what if. It was that way. But I'm thinking back on those days when it was like, there would be that much, the weather would be like that, the roads would be in that kind of condition. Be like statewide emergencies, stay off the roads. It's like, I can't stay off the roads. I got to go see my drug dealer. Right? I mean, right? It's like, I can't stay off the roads, dude. I got to go see my dope man. So anyway, I'm just looking out the window, drinking a nice hot cup of coffee, thinking, geez. And for one, I'm just relieved and so grateful for sobriety. I'm so grateful that I can just sit here and stay inside and have some coffee and just not have to worry about those things. But I also thought about the people who are still suffering and and what they're having to go through to get to what they need. And it's like, you just want to grab them and just be like, look, don't even worry about that. Just go to treatment, right? Just go. I know how impossible it seems. It did. It does. It did. I know. I was there. You were there. We were all there. We know how impossible it seems. But it's not, is it? In fact, it ended up being a little bit easier than we thought. I know it wasn't easy. Please believe me. I know that. But looking back, it's like, yeah, the only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. Right? So I was looking out the window at that and I'm thinking those things and I've got some stories that from back in those times, geez, like, let me think, gosh, I wrote down a few here. Well, like, I live in central Kentucky and we used to drive to Cincinnati for the good deals. That's where you could get a lot for less and it was a much better quality too. Anyway, I know that sounds like a dope fiend, but whatever. That was my mindset at the time. Just kind of continuing on that thing from the holiday one. Like, I think about those trips to Cincinnati and the very harsh winter weather. I even remember one time it was just a freak pop-up snowstorm that just really, it was weird. It was a cold day, but the weather was clear. And we were heading on out. We were going up there. And within about a half an hour being on the road, all of a sudden, just from nowhere, it started snowing. Now, maybe it was in the forecast. I don't know. I mean, when you're strung out on dope, you're not listening to weather forecast. Right? But by the time we got to Cincinnati, I mean, it was treacherous. It was. And the thing about Cincinnati is it's in the Ohio River Valley, so there's some pretty good hills there. Down into the valley, back up out of the valley. And then, for example, another case, my dealer who lived in these apartments, of course, they was in a very sketchy part of town, very sketchy apartment complex. But we were there, and it had been snowing, and thankfully he was like, yeah, if you can get here, you can come on through, blah, 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 whatever. So we were like, well, yeah, we'll get there. But his apartment complex was like way down in this, I mean, I don't want to say it was a valley, but it's way down this hill, and like, it's a big sprawling apartment complex, and it's just way down this hill. When you would pull into the apartments, it was up on top, and that's where the office was and all that stuff. But then you had to go way down this driveway and then down into the parking area and all that. Well, we determined that it's like, yeah, there's no way we're going to get this car back up that hill. Even if and that's assuming we don't slide off the road going down the hill. But even if we were managed to pull that part off, there's no way we're getting back up it. And that's the last thing we want to do, is be a group of people from out of town stuck here. That would be a very bad move. Because, well, the police patrolled that area pretty heavily. So the only option was to park up at the top by the office and to walk down. So I did. We did. I walked down. So I began walking down. And another thing about Cincinnati police is, and this was a good thing, I guess, is they would, on the tops of their cruisers, they would always have one red, one blue light, always just on, not flashing, just on. So it was easy to spot them if they were coming through a parking lot, because you could see that over the roofs of the cars. So as I'm going down through there, I do see that, and I'm like, uh-oh. So I have to duck and hide behind some cars because I don't want them seeing me. Sorry, just some white dude walking through this particular apartment complex. Yeah, it's like, what is your business here? And I mean, it's pretty obvious what I was there for. Come on. So anyway, I managed to pull that off. So I got to the apartment, got in, took care of business, all that good stuff. Then had to make my way back up the hill in that snow, and it was very deep. I don't remember what shoes I had on. I would assume it was certainly not snow boots. So anyway, that's that story. You know, it was just, I've just been kind of reminiscing about times like that. And I know everybody has those stories like that. They do. You've got them. Everybody's got them. Like another one, because the grind never ends. I've got another one that I kind of want to say. I had another friend. Well, it was an acquaintance, someone that kind of depended on me to get them dope. They would always chip in with me to go get the stuff. Well, I needed a car. So I'm like, well, I can go, but I need to borrow your car while you're at work. This lady, she waited tables. Okay, fine. Take my car, go get the stuff, whatever. Well, it was a Cherokee, a Jeep Cherokee, and it had bald tires. And yes, it was very icy and snowy. So on the interstate with bald tires, what could go wrong, right? Oh, what could possibly go wrong besides everything? So doing about 20 miles an hour, actually made it there. Okay. Saw the dude, whatever. Got everything good and everything. We're headed back. And I remember it was coming up out of anybody who doesn't know, when you're coming out of Cincinnati and back into the Kentucky side, you go way up this hill. When you're coming from Kentucky into Cincinnati, it's way down it. But anyway, in this case, I was going way back up this hill. So you kind of had to gun it once in a while when you would hit a slick spot or whatever, just to keep moving, because the last thing you wanted to do on that snow and ice was stop moving, especially when you're trying to climb a hill. Well, at some point, this Cherokee spun out on me. And I don't know if I did a 90 degree or if it ended up being like a 270 degree. That much I cannot remember. All I remember is we ended up sideways in the road, and I looked, I guess it was 90 degrees, because I looked out the passenger side and I saw a truck coming at us. I don't remember how big of a truck, but it was big enough. And I thought, oh man, this is it. I've just wrecked this girl's truck and I don't know what else. So I just ducked my head down And I guess I waited a few seconds or whatever. And I was like, oh. So I popped my head back up, and I don't know where that truck went. Maybe it was divine intervention. I don't know. I know that there was a lot of cars going around us because we were sitting still sideways in the road on an interstate. So, of course, I had to straighten it back up and get moving again. I'm pretty sure besides that trip was rather uneventful, other than the fact that it was bald tires. And yeah, it was very slick and sliding around all over the place. So, and that's kind of another thing. It's like when we're strung out on dope, we can't afford to buy new tires for our cars. You crazy? We can't. That's a lot of money, right? So that's just one more reason to be so grateful for sobriety. It's like we can keep good tires on our cars. We can, right? I mean, those Michelin Defender 2 tires, they are so good in the snow. And they're so expensive. All tires are expensive anyway, and not that I like spending that much money on tires. I don't, but I'm just thankful that I'm able to. I'm thankful that if I have that money, I don't have to have it for my habit. But one more, I also think about, like, I was in jail, which jails are cold anyway, but Cincinnati jail is very cold, and it's downtown Cincinnati. It's actually above ground. I know most jails are kind of below ground, or at least they're out of town. But no, not Cincinnati's. Cincinnati's jail is, I don't know, what is it? Like maybe 12 stories high, maybe more. And it's downtown Cincinnati. Most people wouldn't even realize they're looking at the jail when they're looking at it, unless they already know. And I remember looking out my window, and it was during a blizzard. I think they had 18 inches of snow. And we just kind of watched it from the jail windows. And I remember looking out, and my cell was right over where intake is there. So I could look down and see the cops coming in and having those people with them that they're bringing in to book in. And yeah, so watching them bring them in intake in the snow. Usually it's some poor schlub who's not dressed appropriately for the weather and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you're going to freeze your ass off when you get in here, man. Because it was so cold. Right? And jails anyway, it's cold anyway. And then when you're sitting there looking out that window at 18 inches of snow, but then there's also across the street from right there in that area, that part where the intake is, there's the casino. At the time, it was a Horseshoe Casino. I think it's changed name. It's changed hands several times. So I don't know what the casino is called in just downtown Cincinnati. Now, it doesn't matter. So at the time, it was Horseshoe Casino. And just looking out the window over there and watching those people, and they're having fun, even though there's a ton of snow on the ground and it's cold. They're out and they're having dinner and all of those things, having dinner and maybe drinks and I guess gambling and all that and whatever. Point is, there I am sitting there in my jail uniform, freezing to death in jail, probably dope sick, and just kind of looking out there thinking, man, some people have no idea how good they got it. And then I know that those same people would look at me and think, well, you did this to yourself there, buddy. And to which I would say, you're right. I did. You're absolutely right. However, we're never looking for any sympathy. I guess what we're maybe looking for is some understanding. It would be nice for people to understand that we never wanted to end up this way. We never wanted to end up in a position where we are having to get out and walk in a foot of snow with a pair of Vans on, right? Like miles. We never went literally walking miles in a foot of snow in a pair of Vans trying to stay warm. All because we have an addiction that must be fed. A lot of people think, well, you did this to yourself, dude. To which, any of us are going to say, yeah, you're right. We absolutely did. There's no question. No question about that. And we are not looking for sympathy, but some understanding would be nice. That's all. And that's why I try to give people some understanding. That's the purpose of this podcast, actually, is so that for a couple things. One, to let people know you're not alone. Someone does understand. But two, and mainly for those of us who are already in recovery, those of us have already got some clean time under our belt. I've got years now. It's also so that those of us who do have some clean time in we can share stories and we can talk, and right, it's more listen, just me talking and you listening to me. But if you want to come on for an interview, that would be fantastic. I would be more than happy. So let me know if you want to do that. You can always go through on if you go to my Buzzsprout page, well, actually it's on any of them. They have put in a ask Matt a question or whatever. I can't remember what it says, but it's in the description of the episode, and it gives you a means of making a suggestion or asking a question or anything like that. If anybody listening to this isn't interested in interviewing, which anybody I've talked to so far that listens to it is not really interested in interviewing, and that's fine. I understand. But they do appreciate the fact that I just kind of get on here and talk about the old days of when we used to be like that. Like when I was talking about, isn't it nice that we can now go in a grocery store and drop a couple $100 on groceries? And we might complain about the price of groceries, but we're not at least we're not thinking, God, I can't do that. I got to have that. I got to have at least 150 of it for dope for tomorrow. Right? Yeah, groceries are crazy expensive, but at least we can buy them. At least now we're not having to decide between groceries and dope. And we always know we know who wins that one. 100 out of 100 times, we know who wins that one. Right? But then again, I mean, we might have bought some groceries, but I guarantee you, if you had $200 in your pocket, you ain't going to go in and drop no 150 on groceries. That ain't happening. Maybe 50 out of that 200 on groceries. Maybe. Probably more like 20. But I don't know. I don't even remember exactly. I do just remember thinking, yeah, I can't spend that much money on groceries. I got to have dope for tomorrow. So yeah, I was just kind of sitting at my window looking out at that. It's a lot of snow and it's just cold and frigid. And the lovely Kitty and I are snowed in, but it's great. We don't care. But it really does make me think back on those times. And gosh, I'm so grateful. So grateful. Aren't you? I mean, aren't you just so grateful that now you're not having to chase dope? That now you're not having to get out and grind and hustle and do all those things that you had to do? I mean, we had to do some things that, well, we're not proud of, I know. There's a lot of people who did some things they don't even want to talk about. But you don't have to talk about it. But maybe sometimes just think and just as a reminder of how good you got it now. Even when things are tough. Times are still tough. Just because we got sober doesn't mean life is great. Well, life is great, but I mean, doesn't mean we don't have issues come up. We all have issues come up. So there's that. But anyway, dear loved one, yeah, like I said, I did have a podcast episode outlined, and it was not to do with this, but I'm running behind getting this one out for this week, but I did look out and I saw the snow, and I just kind of got to reminiscing, and I'm like, well, that's kind of the same theme I had for the holiday one, where I was talking about, missing out on the holidays with family because of the habit. I'm like, that's okay. I mean, these things aren't necessarily dated, right? So I'm going to do this one and kind of continue the theme of, isn't it nice? Isn't it so nice that we don't have to do those things anymore? Anyway, loved ones, if you like to listen to me and ramble on about my esoteric, metaphysical stuff that I always did, you can find all that still on my YouTube channel. That is also Matt Stevens, MSA, on YouTube. I would greatly appreciate it if you'd go there and subscribe at least. And what else have I got? I'm on X. So X is also Matt Stevens, MSA. I post pretty much everything on X. And I'm still on Substack and Reddit now. All I'm doing there is just kind of posting my little random articles, little blurbs, and blogs and things like that I write from time to time. I just wrote another pretty good one the other day. I like it anyway, about simulation theory. And I am going to get that one put on Substack and Reddit today at some point. Today being Tuesday, January 7th, 2 days before the lovely Kitty's birthday. So there's that. And what else have I got? That's all I got, I guess. That's it, loved ones. So if you would, please give me some subscriptions and also some ratings and reviews would be much appreciated as well. And that's what I got, loved ones. I love you. I do. And I'll be back directly.